Okay, so you want to sell your business, or you have the dream of selling your business. Just making a coffee here for a second. Everybody's goal is to eventually exit. There's going to be a time when you can't work anymore. You don't want to work. You need a cash infusion. You really want to see the potential of the business. And I'm speaking from the perspective of a construction person. I've done over $2.5 billion in construction, and I consult for private equity companies on construction deals. So I know this very, very well. So even if you're not a contractor, I think what I'm about to give you guys some game on is going to be very important. But if you are a contractor, you likely are if you're watching my stuff, take notes. What I'm about to tell you is a prescription, not a recommendation, okay? So I'm going to have this coffee. Let's go sit down, and let me give you some game. Okay, so I got my coffee. Actually, it's cappuccino. I'm gonna make this really simple for you guys. All this is somebody is gonna expend capital to get a return, period. Nobody's gonna write you a check, or if you're crazy enough, to give equity away to somebody is insane. But if somebody's gonna write a check, somebody's become a capital partner, or somebody's gonna buy your company and slot you out of position and slot somebody else in, they're gonna look for a return on the investment. It's that simple. So then my question to you is, who would invest money in your company and what kind of return could they possibly get? Now, I will tell you from my experience that the number one factor is a company that can be acquired. If you're thinking about an exit, the number one thing that these guys care about is that if you get pulled out of this business, that the company can continue to sustain its current revenue capture. And if they put new people in or add more money to the business, they'll be able to increase the revenue capture to get a return on their investment. That's the formula. Nobody's gonna invest money in something that they don't believe is gonna continue to sustain the current revenue capture that it's been trending and showing over a few year period, and that if they put somebody else in position as a CEO, or if they raise more money and inject more capital into the company, that it'll then increase revenue. Okay, so the question that I have for you guys, this is for all entrepreneurs, but specifically for construction guys, contractors, does that look like your company currently? What everybody knows, in the construction space, we are incredibly deficient in systems. I mean, everything comes down to the heroics of the owner, okay? Not all shops, but like almost all of them. Why? Because the guy's been in the field for 15 years. Then he starts his own shop. That day, he's a business person, but he's not. He spent 15 years being a construction worker. He didn't spend 15 years being an entrepreneur and a business person. So he still has the lenses of a construction worker, but he has the pain and the pressure and the responsibilities of a business person, so he's trying to basically take the wings on as he flies. That's every contracting company that's out there, for the most part, okay? Obviously, there's outliers and there's nuances, but you understand what I'm saying. If the business comes down to the personal heroics of the owner, or the personal heroics of the owner and maybe one other guy, your company doesn't have a value, period, at all. If you get sick, you die, you quit, or that person gets sick, that person dies, or they quit, or better yet, extort you and say, if you don't pay me XYZ, I'm going to Skanska and they're gonna pay me $500,000 a year. You know the game. If you're in this game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is not a business that anybody wants to get involved in. It is not a safe play. And these guys are obviously willing and looking to take risk, but they're not crazy, okay? So that's one thing. If you want to exit, what needs to be shown is that this company, without me, can continue to sustain margins, can continue to sustain revenue and grow even without me around, because I created the systems, the accountability, the frameworks that this company runs on top of. I've positioned us in a market, we've created a brand, we have a name, and you could move people around in and out of departments and slot people into positions, and the company will continue to maintain its growth. That is something somebody's willing to buy. Like, they will line up at your door to buy that. I'll tell you, I was brought in on a deal, and there's only so much I can say, but I was brought in on a deal, and a period of time over a few projects, they were crushing it. I mean, margins I've never seen before, especially in this was a public works thing. And the first thing I said was, I looked at the jobs that are just like outperforming the industry by a standard deviation on margin capture. And I said, I want to know who the project manager is on all those jobs that crushed it. Okay. And then I want to know the project managers on all the jobs that are just basically industry standard margins. Why did I ask that question? Because immediately I want to know if those jobs that have an insane margin capture are directly related to the heroics of one awesome PM This is not a sustainable investment. If that guy dies, if that guy quits, or if that guy wants to go somewhere else, he is going to be a cost burden massively. The company is not set up to capture those type of margins if this is the case. And what do you think happened? The jobs that crushed it were the same project manager. And the jobs that didn't were multiple project managers. And the jobs that didn't crush it, that PM, the great PM, had nothing to do with those other ones, right? So from jump, we saw this guy's pounding his chest over these insane and incredible margins, and it's because of the heroics of him and a PM. When him and that PM are not involved, it's just a standard shop. So he was making money, the guy's living good, he's got a good business, but that business is anchored by his heroics and that PM. And that is the anchor of that business. And the growth and the benefits that all of these guys are living off of are from those two guys. That's not something anybody wants to buy. Now, this is from the perspective of an acquisition for exit. What about someone coming in as a capital partner? They're going to infuse capital into the business. They're going to be aligned with you so they can grow revenue and eventually what? Exit, right? Everybody's going to be looking for a return on their investment. Well, in that scenario, which you're going to see, and the fund that I deal with, one of my private equity clients that's brought me in on these deals, they're like that. And they're a really good shop. I mean, they're not predatory at all. They want to align themselves and be a partner, which is why they're very selective. They want to align themselves and be a partner because they're gonna do everything in their power to actually be a partner, put systems in place, infuse capital, and then take this thing for a ride and then package it up and exit where everybody gets to eat. But in that scenario, they're partnering with the owner. They want to be able to see that what I was just explaining on the acquisition for exit portion, that systems are in place, that people are being turned over, that new people are coming in and some guys are leaving and new guys are coming in and then they're being elevated and promoted, and the margin capture is still going like this. It's proving that it's not the heroics of one guy, that there is a system in place, that this company has leadership, it has a process, it has a market position, so we can move people in and out. The risk exposure is minimized. Okay, when there's a concentration of revenue that lives on the lap of one person, or the lap of one or two guys, there's a massive risk exposure there for anybody. Now for you, it's like, hey, this is my company, I started from nothing, I'm involved in everything, and I've done well, and I've pushed this thing to $5 or $10 million. Good for you, man. Good for you. You've made some money, you got a business going, that's awesome. From the perspective of an outsider who's not in that business, is gonna write you a check, he's not interested in that. There's too much exposure there. What happens if you die, you get sick, you have a stroke, you can't talk anymore, you want to quit, then what? His investment goes to shit. They're buying an organism. They're trying to buy a machine that has duplicatable, repeatable revenue capture, margin capture that can continue to grow in the future so they can get a return on their investment. So what applies for acquisition for exit also applies for capital partners. Now, here's the predatory part of this business, is that because everybody knows that contractors are deficient in systems area, they know that there has to be a requirement of experience before you can start your own shop. And then that contractor at that point of time has to then say, okay, now I'm gonna be a business person. I'm gonna learn contract, accounting, HR, C-suite, marketing. I'm gonna learn all of these things. I've gotta learn systems and process, and I've gotta get this thing organized. I'm gonna elevate my game, and now I'm an executive, I'm an entrepreneur, I have to learn all of these things. They know that that's a tall order. And that is an outlier. And so what these guys do is they say, hey, look, you want to go to 100 million? No problem. We can go to 100 million. You're doing 2 million? We'll go to 100 million in 4 years. Give me 50% of your business. All the back end stuff that you don't like doing, I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put people in position to do it. I'm gonna pay them, okay? Then we're gonna come up with a contract that we get a revenue share, we get a profit sharing that pays us for all of the overhead burden that we are absorbing, and we're gonna move this thing to 100 million, and then we're gonna exit, okay? Which is insane, and it's a predatory, because what's going to happen is the fish rots at the head. Everything comes down to the pilot in the box. I've seen this so many times, and it's prevalent in our industry, and guys get the hook and they can't spit the hook because they believe that somebody is a lotto ticket that's gonna come in and do the hard work that they don't wanna do. So you're gonna get a $100 million business that you're a partner in, and you don't have to elevate your game in any way. You don't have to change. We're gonna take you to the NFL, but you get to keep your gameplay level of junior varsity. That doesn't apply anywhere in the world But contractors fall for it every day. And I get pulled in on that scenario. And it's terrible because what happens is you don't hit 100 million, okay? And the profit growth isn't at a rate great enough to pay that guy back who's absorbing all that back office cost for you and all the other stuff that he told you he needs to do that you don't know anything about. He has to get paid on that. So what's he gonna do? He's gonna go raise money now. He's gonna go to his friends. I could do this today. I could do this right now. I could go to 100 contractors, contractor circle, contractor school guys, all the people that I do one-on-ones with. I could say, you know what, dude, I'm your partner tomorrow. All of them would say, where do I sign? Okay, and then I could go do that and take it and go right to my guys on Wall Street and go, hey, look, man, boom, here you go. It's the most, and the reason why I don't do it is because you're gonna go to hell doing it. It's the most predatory thing. Because they're gonna go raise money now. The equity that they're gonna be using to sell to the new capital raise is gonna come out of whose pocket? Not theirs. Yours. You're gonna go from owning 49% to now owning 35%, okay? And they're gonna bring that, they're gonna get that money injected and they're gonna pay themselves back from that capital raise to make themselves whole and get a return. You just went from owning 100% of a $2 million business to now owning 35% of a $2.5 million business. And then those guys are not gonna get their return, so they're gonna go and raise money again to get themselves out of the deal, and guess where the equity is gonna come from? You're gonna go from 35 to 25 now. Now you've just let your business get devoured. I was brought in on a scenario where a guy had 100% of his company. It was a $2 million company. By the time this whole cycle was done, he bit the hook from some Instagram guy that's gonna fucking sell his business. He bit the hook. At the end of it, he owned 7% of his company. The company was doing $3 million. It's a nightmare. Everybody else ate except that guy. He created something, spent the years in the field getting the experience to do it, and because he would not elevate his game, learn to be an entrepreneur, learn executive best practices and skills, because he wanted to farm that out to someone else, he went from 100% ownership in a $2 million business to a 7% ownership stake in a $3 million shop, and everybody else ate except him. There's no free lunch. There is no way around it. If you want to exit, you can. If you want a capital partner, you can do that. Just understand what comes with that and what these guys are looking for. And you don't have to be that story of the guy who was diluted down to 7%. You can be a success story, but it starts with you. The fish rots at the head. Everything comes down to the pilot in the box. It's about you becoming a better entrepreneur. Money isn't always the answer, man. Things don't get easier. You just get stronger, okay? This is a prescription, not a recommendation, especially for the contractors in this that are watching this. All right? I'm gonna finish my coffee, my cappuccino. See you guys on the next one.